CC Banking Incorporated, the future of banking. I'm kidding. This is a project that my friend Cameron Cummins and I, Connor Donahue, did for one of our classes. It's a final project and we're very happy with the outcome. We took 5 days to kind of get an idea of what we wanted to do and then implement it using Python, CSS, JavaScript, and HTML. Now, the goal of this web application was to create a system in Python using the Flask API for keeping track of simple bank accounts with deposit and withdrawal functions. On top of this system, we also developed a browser-friendly user interface using HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. The database is sustained using Redis, and the network is orchestrated with Kubernetes. I'll give you a quick overview of how the web page works and what our project does. So I'll read the banking portal login page for you. At CC Banking, we strive to provide the simplest analysis of your completely legitimate assets. Making money is as simple as pressing a button. Sleep peacefully knowing that your 100% authentic, vibranium-backed digital dollaroos are stored securely on our servers, accessible only to those who know the 12-digit account ID, which clearly no one would know. Trust CC Banking to make money making as stress-free as humanly possible. CC Banking Incorporated, where your money is not our priority. And then, obviously, we gave ourselves credit. Now, the only way you'd be able to view this is if you put this into your browser, but it's going to be going down in maybe a week or two after this video is uploaded. So if it's after that point, you will either just have to enjoy this web page vicariously through me, or you can go to the GitHub link, which will be down in the description below, and you can set everything up yourself. So let's start with a fresh canvas. We have no accounts, and maybe we're just going to generate 100 random accounts. So now we have a bunch of accounts, and it doesn't show all of them right now, but I promise you they're there. And we'll take one of these account IDs, and we can put it in here, we'll paste it, and then we can hit login to see the specifics of this account. Now, these account transactions, the time and the amount, are randomly generated on a normal distribution, and most of them are positively gaining money. So a lot of the time it's just deposits. Sometimes there will be withdrawals, but we made it so they're just mainly deposits. Now, if you look here on the graph, we can see an analysis of the balance of the account over time. And we made it start in 2000, go all the way to 2020. So it does cover around 2 decades. The actual is the actual plot of the balance over time, and the predicted is a regression of a custom regression function that we made using least squares linear regression. And we can predict the balance of an account holder over time using this data. And you can see that if we make a withdrawal or deposit, let's make it pretty significant so you can clearly see the regressor working in action. What do we have? We have about 17,500, I think $10,000 withdrawal. It's going to be pretty significant, and you can see the regressor will actually change to indicate the new action in the account. So it's now predicting a downward progression with the balance in the future. We have another graph here. It's a histogram of the above graph, and it just tells us how many transactions were made at each point in the day. And now again, this is randomly generated. For a normal person, you might see something more of having like 3 modes in the histogram, one for morning, one for the noon, and one for evening, generally your meal times or your activity times. So that's what you generally see, and you can sort of see that here, but it's a little strange because there's a lot of activity at 12 a.m. Now here we have a history of all the purchases that have ever happened, so we can just log into another account. This may be the same one, I'm not entirely sure. So yeah, here we can see every transaction that has ever been made and the balance that goes alongside it. So here you can see there was there were some withdrawals here and then a deposit, and you can see that in the graph here. And now below we have the job IDs. And so what this is whenever we make a withdrawal or a deposit, we're sending information to our database, and that's being put in a queue where a worker is then looking at it and processing the job. So every time a job is processed, it shows up here under the job IDs, and you can see that there are job types, then it shows the account ID, and it also shows the status of the job. So we will deposit $15 4 times. And this pane will update around every 10 seconds alongside these things. And pretty soon we should see some $15 deposits. So you see them here. And now we have all of our job IDs. And our job IDs will only show up once, and they'll go away in 10 seconds. So we can quickly look at them, see they all have the same account. You can see there's graphing jobs, transaction jobs, and then there's also histogram graphing jobs. And on the status, they probably all said complete. I didn't notice, but they should have. At least most of them would be complete because, as you can see here, it is graphed and it does show up here. So we can log out of the account, and that's how we go back to this page. Then we can log into another account. And if we want to, we can actually delete this account. So if we do close account, it's going to warn us that this will delete the account. We press it one more time and it's gone. And so we can no longer log into this account. See? It doesn't exist. Now, if we want to delete all the accounts, we click nuke all accounts, and there you have it. It's all gone. So once I've nuked all accounts, I have the option to create a new account. So you don't have to use a pre-generated account. You can create your own, and then it will create a banking ID for you. So I just copied that. So once you've joined in, there's already one preset transaction, and it is counted as a transaction even though it's just $0, but you can see it here counted. And it doesn't show here, but it will, and you will see it if we deposit $15. The regression will then kick in, and you will start to see it regressing. However, the regressor doesn't always work because we're interpreting these graphs as 7th order polynomials. And so when you only have 2 data points, you're over predicting, and it just doesn't make sense. So sometimes that can break with the new accounts, but we're just going to pretend like everything works perfectly. Do keep in mind, this was a 5-day project, and we did have classes going on outside of this class. So we were very busy, and 5 days actually isn't a lot of time to set all of this up. But now that you've seen and you've had an idea of what this web page does, I'll quickly go over some of the more specific coding parts that may not be as fun for most people to see. Now, if you're going to do this project and you want to recreate it on your own, you will need to mess with Kubernetes. And there are a few things that you need for Kubernetes. I'll outline them here, and these are all YAML files. You need a Flask deployment, a Flask service. You need a persistent volume claim for your Redis database, so it can hold all of the information even if pods or deployments get deleted. That way none of your information like your accounts or jobs get deleted unless you want them to. You need a Redis service, so this will give you an IP that you can connect to. And you need a deployment for a worker. This one does the graphing. Then you need another deployment for a different worker, which does the transactions. This here is so I can put it on the web page that you just saw. It's running through a supercomputer at the university I go to. So we need this specific file, but if you want to run it at your home, you don't need that. Now, I will show you quickly just what you need to do if you do want to put these services up. So for instance, I will go ahead and I will delete the deployments, so the worker, the Flask, and the other worker, and I will show you that the website isn't working anymore. Now if we go over to the page, we see that we no longer are able to connect. So now I'll show you how you apply these different YAML files and how that can then translate into a working web page. So if we want to apply these files, we do the following: Kubernetes control apply -f cc-final. And so these are just the names of my files. And so I'm going to do these for each of the deployment files. Now that we've done that, we can check to see that these are online and working. And so we see that the worker pod, the worker transaction, and the Flask are all running. So now when we go back to the website, it should be up and running. And you see now it's up and running, and we do still have our account that we made because of our persistent volume claim. That's why it's important to have it, because if you didn't have that, we would have lost this account stuff. And if we log in, we can still see our transaction history of depositing $15. So yeah, that's how that works. Now I will briefly just skim over the Python for you guys so you can see what it looks like. So now we're in the Python, all the code, and right now we're in api.py. So this is controlling all the different routes of the website that we have. So we have this right here, which is just going to show you that basic page that we have. And this is talking to a whole bunch of HTML code. And then this is the logging in, so that's how you get to each specific ID and all that transaction history and the specific graph related to that. You have a create route, delete, you see all your account IDs, your job IDs, all your jobs. This is so you can get a spending, your balance history over time graph, and you can get that histogram graph. You can nuke all the accounts like you saw if you want to make a deposit or withdraw. And that's it. Those are all the routes we have. Then here, this is jobs. So these are basically, this is everything at work. This is everything that's doing all the pushing in the background. This is our strong guy holding up the project. All this code right here. So this right here is just graphing, lots of matplotlib stuff. Yeah, the graphing stuff is pretty beefy. And then here we have our graph worker. So this is making the different graphs whenever a job is put in the queue to be worked on. And here we have a transaction worker, and this is the worker that is working with deposits and withdrawals. And then lastly, this is the custom regression function that we made, and here I have notes here if you want to pause the video to read over to see how it actually works. Okay, assuming you finished reading that, I'll go on. So the code is really simple once you understand how the regression works with polynomials, and we made it so you can interpret the data as any order polynomial. We just decided to do 7 in case there was lots of crazy stuff. Sometimes overestimating the order of your lines and curves is bad, because if it's a really simple curve, a really simple line, a really simple curve, if you overestimate it, you just get a bunch of wavy lines where there shouldn't be any. So it's not always a good idea to overestimate, which is why we did something reasonable like a 7th order polynomial and not something like a 27th order. Now hopefully you enjoyed this project as much as Cameron and I did making it. It was a lot of fun, and it was something new for us. And hopefully you enjoyed it. And if you can, I will link this in the description. So if you do see this within the week or two, that it will still be up from when I uploaded the video. You should play around with it. It doesn't matter. You can do whatever you want on here. You can nuke all the accounts. You can create new accounts. Do whatever you want. It's fine. You won't harm anything. Just have some fun on here. And just showing how the routes worked that I showed you before. If we do this and we look at job IDs, we can see just a different job. So this is showing you how those different routes work. Then I know another one was jobs. There are no jobs right now. And then just one more, we'll look at account IDs. There you go. So these are all the different accounts we have at the moment. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, share it, show it to friends. And then maybe I'll post another passion project soon. But thanks for watching. Bye.